this video, I'm going to just do a demonstration how to create this part. It's not that complicated. Just show you a few construction techniques. So this part's primarily, it's kind of a rectangular type part. So that's how I'm going to start my sketch. 4 by 1.5. Let me hit escape. Let's come over here. Come down 2.25. Now, when you've got radius and diameters, remember they can tell you a lot of information. Like this tells you that this is a 0.75 radius. That means from the center to the outside is 0.75. Well, that means also from the center to this outside is 0.75. So if you take 0.75 times 2, that's going to tell you that's a 1.5 inch diameter, which means from there to there is 1.5. So I'm just going to draw a line. It's going to be a construction line. There to there of 1.5. And then I don't know what to do right here, so I'm just going to draw some lines, kind of freehand. Now I've got my object snap and my ortho on. I do know that there's a corner here, but I don't need to know those dimensions because I can generate that information. Let's come down here and think about this. So let's look at this. So we already talked about that. That's a 0.75 radius is a 1.5 diameter. Or when I draw this, I'll just draw it as a circle and use the center and radius tool. I can use the midpoint of this line here, as long as I have my object snap turned on for midpoint. Make sure midpoint is turned on. And I know that that is 1.5. Just erase that. That's a construction line. I know that that circle there is a 1 inch, so it's 1 inch diameter, so I'm going to switch to center common diameter. Let's see, I can trim this off now, so use these as cutting edges. Hit enter, get rid of that. I can trim those off. Let's just do a big trim here. So there's my general shape. Let's go ahead and locate these holes here. I've got 3 1/2 inch diameter holes, and looks like 0.375 down. So let's do an offset of 0.375. Pretty much for everything. Let's go to my circle tool, and those are 1/2 inch diameter circles. Oops, gotta be careful there. And that's good. These are just construction lines. Let me fillet those corners. Let's see what I've got. Those are 1/4 inch fillets. It says 3 of them, so it's going to be those 3 corners. Let's go to the fillet tool. Now remember, to use that, you have to hit R, enter, and then set the fillet radius. Otherwise, the value is 0.25. Hit enter. Now the radius is set. Now I just have to click on the lines involved. Space bar to continue. Go to the next pair. Space bar. Next pair. Now be careful because this one's different. This one's a 1/2 inch, so I'll have to go back to fillet. Hit R, enter, because I'm going to set the value. The default is 0.25. I need that to be 0.5. Hit enter, and you can click on those 2 lines. So there's the overall shape of that. Now, a couple things I need to do is dimensionally, let's just make sure we get all the dimensions on there correctly. You can, different ways to go about this. Let's just go ahead. Now remember, to get a circle, if you want to try to find the center, bring your cursor to the outside of the circle, but don't click on it, and you'll get that center and that center. Now one thing you can see is those dimensions are too big for this part. They're going to overpower the shape. Let's fix that. Also too many decimals. So let's go to our dimension styles. First, let's take care of the units. We just want 2 decimals, right? And let's go to the fit. So the problem here is the dimensions are just way too big, right? So let's just scale that down on overall scale. Let's try 0.5. That may be too aggressive, and let's see what that looks like. Now, if it doesn't adjust, remember, if you just bump the dimension a little bit, it'll change the size. That actually is not bad. I think I'm just going to go with that. If you want to, could make it a little bigger. Let's just go with that. Okay, so let's continue on with our dimensions. Now on these, where the corners have been filleted, you're going to want to make sure your object snap is on and click on those endpoints where the lines got, when you put a fillet on there, it'll automatically trim the lines back, and I'll show you how to handle that. So the challenge here now, see how you're supposed to have a gap? There's a very, very small gap. So what you can do is you'll have to turn your object snap off. If you click on that line and then click on that little blue box, you can slide that up and give yourself a gap. So it's a minor detail, but it will make a difference in terms of presenting the part in the best way you can. Let's see. I'm going to have the same challenges over here. Let's go ahead and do the, turn my object snap back on. Let's do these. Now, if the dimension doesn't go where you want first, just place it. You can always move it. So if you hit escape and then click on that dimension, you can move it around. Now, if there's enough room, you can fit it in there. Now, try not to crowd the part. Sometimes what happens is with object snap and ortho on, you're limited. If you turn those off, you get a little more leeway on moving your dimensions around. And that's not a bad way to present that. Okay, turn those back on. Let's go ahead and finish this here. Same situation with that. I'll turn these off. Now, you can do them, kind of do them all at the same time. All right, turn those tools back on. We need this overall height on this end. And you can probably see already this situation. Now we've got the same problem with the corners, but now we've got two sets of extension lines because you have the ones for that dimension and the ones for that dimension. So you have to kind of double up on that when you move those. I'll turn my object snap off. And I'll take that, slide it out, and you say, well, what's happened? Well, there's two of them, so you have to do that twice. Just you want to have a gap there. Try to be somewhat consistent and make, oops, let's try that again. There we go. Same thing here, I've got two sets, so I'm gonna have to come down. I'm hitting escape when I move one, then hit escape, and then you can move the other. Okay. I do need to call out the dimension on this diameter here. Now try not to crash through your other lines. Now don't crash through the dimensions. Try not to make false corners. Like some people think it's cool to like split that. Don't do that. It's deceiving. It kind of looks like a corner. So try to find a space where you can make it look, reasonably innocuous where it doesn't interfere with your other dimensions. And maybe that's really not the greatest place. If you look at this one, this on the handout here, it's not really that great. Let's do something better. I think actually you got a really nice piece of real estate right over there. That's a perfect place to put that. Now you have three of those, so double click on that. Make sure your cursor is on the left-hand side. Oops, do a 3x space. There we go, that looks good. What are we missing here? Now notice, because you put the dimension on this one, it has a center mark. These other holes all need center marks. We'll come back and do that in a minute because we've got to dimension these guys. Let's locate. Let's see, zoom in. There we go. My object snap is off. That's the problem. Yeah, you should never be dimensioning with your object snap off. Okay, now I did notice that there's a missing dimension here, but I figured it out before we started. There should also be, that dimension should be on there. Let's call out these sizes. So this one is a diameter. Now whenever you have a full circle, it should be called out as a diameter. This one is a radius because it's a partial circle. And then you've got this radius here, which on these, if you pull it, try to pull it out too far, you'll get those kind of weird looking circles, which technically is okay. I don't like the way they look, so I'm going to try to just massage this a little bit till I get it to what I'm happy with. Okay, that looks pretty good. The circle thing's okay, it's just not really that pretty. center marks. So go to annotate, center mark, and then just click on the circles. And I usually just click all of them so they all look the same. And now I have center marks on everything. One last thing, and that is I need to, well, a couple things. I'm going to need to go in here and bump out these extension lines. Let's see. I guess it's just that one maybe. I need to bump out that. Let me turn my object snap off. That extension line there should be slid out a little bit. And then I need to call out this radius here somewhere. And I don't know, this is probably, I don't know, one of those two corners. Let's see if I can fit it in there. Call out that radius. So it's not interfering with my other lines. That's not bad. Oops, and then I need to have, let's see, how many of those do we have? We have 3 of those, so double click, 3x. Those should actually be capital, 3x. Close the text editor. And there's our drawing. So then again, put the title and your name and so forth. Put it onto paper space, adjust your borders. This is just an example. You have a problem that's somewhat similar to this, but not the exact same. So hopefully that helps you with